Welcome to Accounting High.
A very quick exercise that I would ask any firm owner to do is to go to a large language model. Like this morning, like I went to ChatGPT and I typed in and I put in my website, who is the TLTurner Group.com and are they a good firm? And when you ask ChatGPT that question, be prepared for what the answer is. The first reaction I had is, oh shoot, I've been doing something wrong. And then as I read down a little bit further, I'm like, okay, all right, there's some stuff we're doing right, but there's some stuff that I've been really wrong at.
This is like Googling yourself to a different level.
Welcome back, Accounting High. Now it's time for social studies. We'll teach you new creative ways to market old product. If you watch how they post, you'll see it's all authentic and genuine. Grow a following and don't get held back by perfection. Be intentional online, create content. Now that's hot. Strategy is key with social media and pods. Start slow, pick up platforms, stick to it and go post. Make a plan to engage with client watering holes. Create a focused brand, be a lead online. It's a digital world with the best ROI. Now create your own ideal client persona. Let's go. Keyword Accounting High and get ready to blow. It's time for social studies, accounting content hub, LinkedIn marketing or X. So come join our social club. Is it Twitter? Is it X? Shit, now I can't keep up. So comment, follow, love if you into social studies.
Introducing the star of our show,
Scotty and Terrell Turner.
We're gonna have a problem here.
What's up, homie?
Hey, what's up, man? I love the new intro, man. That's pretty awesome.
Thanks, man. We got a lot of new intros at Accounting High. You've been part of this for a little while now. Terrell, it's been a minute since you joined our students here at Accounting High. Thanks for coming back.
Absolutely, man. Hey, thanks for having me. I think whenever we're having these amazing conversations, I think it's something people need to hear, man.
Yeah, well, and this was a good one. This is something you brought to me this morning, actually, and it kind of developed and grew to now we're recording tonight because it's important. This is the evolution. We're talking about the evolution of marketing and an evolution of marketing your brand in accounting. I think that's how we're going to talk about the conversation, but in the age of AI and what this means to all the other marketing conversations that we've had up until this point and how we can position ourselves to be ready for this new change in the large language models and get our brands to show up in those models. So let's talk about first where we're at today and how we got here. So today, what you sent me was a way that I could get my firm to show up if somebody were to search inside ChatGPT for an accounting firm in Raleigh. Is that what basically kind of it led you? Give me a rundown of what that was.
Yeah, so what I was thinking was, I was listening to a YouTube and it was talking, and one of the speakers asked the question of like, how many people are using straight to AI instead of using Google search or Bing or whatever those old search engines were. And I was like, you know what? I do the same thing. Like instead of going to Google something, I will go to ChatGPT, type in my question because I know I'm going to get a more direct answer. And then it made me think about like, well, what if people start looking for accountants that way? And so I went in and I typed in and I was like, okay, all right, our name doesn't show up anywhere in this list. Like we got to figure out how do we start to show up in this list? Because right now, a small percentage of people are using AI to direct search like that. But eventually more people are going to move away from these kind of pay to play. Yeah. And they're going to move more to these AI models. So I was like, okay, all right, we got to make sure that we can show up in these large language models. And we got to start working on that right now.
So before we had these large language models, we have social networks that people are finding services on, and they're doing a lot of searching on there. But before we had the social networks and those platforms, we just had Google. But before we had Google, we had the newspaper. We had the classifieds, right?
And the yellow pages.
The yellow pages. And before that, I mean, what did we have? We had the town square, right? Or we had the place where people gathered and the place where everybody got together. So this is just an evolution of where you're going to get into front of people because of where they're looking and where are the places that they are looking for these things. So it's never really changed as far as that goes. You want to put your best foot forward. You want to make sure you're in front of them, and you've got your sign up and you've got your building, and the building has evolved over time too. You don't even have a building, nor do I for our firms. But that used to be part of the marketing too, is marketing your office place and making sure you were in a location where people were going to walk by. We're now at the point where we want them to walk by our virtual store in the meta. The meta now is just, I'm using that metaphorically. The meta now are these large language models where they're pulling data. So I want to make the jump now from we're marketing to get in front of people and then making sure that we have our best foot forward. When somebody does a search, the search I saw you show me the example, it gave 5 examples of firms that I know of in my local area. I recognize what it said about them, and I recognize that as part of their reputation. But it's pulling it from both the real world now and the meta, right? A lot of these things I know of because I may have seen their actual firm in a downtown area or what they were describing there. How did it do that? What is it pulling from?
A lot of people may look at this and say, well, AI, large language models are messing things up or it's ruining things. But I was like, it's only following the natural evolution, because at every stage where the method of marketing changed, the thing that was happening is when you go back to the original place where it was all word of mouth, town square, well, depending on how much that person you are asking about, let's say if you were looking for an accountant, they probably didn't know a ton about all the accounting firms, so they could only answer to the best of their knowledge. But then we evolved to like the yellow pages, and the yellow pages had limited information in there. Then the next level of things, and then when we got to Google, the reason why Google won so much is because Google was able to provide you with more relevant information. Now, when you get to large language models, it has the ability to pull even more relevant information to answer the specific question that you are asking. As that has evolved over time, just like people shifted from looking in the yellow pages to searching on Google, people eventually are going to switch from searching on Google to using a large language model. Now, it may not be ChatGPT, it may be one of the other ones, but they're going to move to a large language model, and the behavior that they're going to have is going to be asking more specific questions as opposed to just searching for keywords. And I think that makes a huge difference when you're trying to figure out, like, how am I going to show up in the results?
You and I have a lot of marketing conversations, and I think even though we're not too far apart in age, we still come from different eras of marketing because they're changing so rapidly. As I was talking about how I branded my firm and how I was marketing my firm, it's evolved so much since then for what you're doing today. What I was doing was mostly a lot of Google, making sure we got in front of clients on Google, making sure they saw us in the Google. It was all Google related. And we grew and built our firm based on a lot of that. You're doing a lot of stuff on Facebook now and leveraging different parts of the internet to grow your brand and to get in front of people. Are you going to start shifting this to get in front of people more and master that algorithm of the LLMs?
No, the interesting thing is, from the research I've been doing about how do you show up in the results on a LLM or an AI platform, it's really doing all the same stuff you were doing on a social media platform, but just doing it in higher volume and across more places. And to where what we're looking at, and I had a conversation with my team, is like, hey, I know we've been like talking through the strategy of posting once a day on these 3 platforms. The future goal is for us to get to multiple times a day across more platforms and using different formats, whether that's written, that's graphic, that's audio and video, to where we need to be showing up multiple times a day in a variety of ways across more platforms. And of course, the team got a little nervous. They're like, oh my gosh, like, what is this going to mean? Like, don't worry, we're going to come up with a plan to do this, but we have to make that decision, because if we don't, we're going to get left behind, because we don't have all the money that some of the biggest firms have. Like, we're not doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year yet in revenue to where we can't go make that big of an investment and win that way. Like, we got to have a really strong ground game, and we got to be strategic.
You're scrappy too. So you're doing things, hard work to grow, and you're trying to figure things out, and you're experimenting strategically, trying different things and leaning into the ones that are working. And so what I think you're learning is, if you continue to do that, but on a different scale, and continue to be, I mean, almost what you're describing is being omnipresent, is being everywhere. So if they look up at any different place, you should, some semblance of what you're marketing to should show up in front of the right people where they're looking, when they're looking. And I think that's what these social algorithms are, is individualized marketing. You're marketing to the person that needs it when they need it. And that's why everybody knows, if you talk about something near your phone, all of a sudden you're going to start seeing ads for it everywhere. So if you start talking about that you need accounting services at some point around some of these places, if you've positioned yourself right, you're going to be showing up for them because you're that unique fit. And again, we can go deeper and talk about the niches, and the more specific you can get and the more specific who you can market to, which is why you've spent extensive amount of time figuring out who is your audience and who you're talking to. Because if that's the case, then that person who is searching in that large language model is, if you know who they are, then you know they're going to be searching for you at a certain point. And you can get in front of them because you're specific enough about who they are. You know that there's enough of them out there, right? Mm-hmm. So the journey and the exercise you went on for your firm led you to more attorneys and getting in front of more law firms, right? Not just single attorneys, but you defined it as the type of law firm and the mindset and everything. And you went down to all the specifics. And now it's easier for you to be in all of these places at once because you're not trying to be in front of everybody in all of those places. So your team isn't that scared because you're still just going to go for attorneys, maybe accountants too. You do stuff for accountants too, but we're all professionals, right? You know, we're all professionals in the similar playgrounds. But at the end of the day, what you're saying scares me too. You're focusing on 3 platforms. There's a lot more than 3. What is it now? You're on Snapchat now too. You're on Facebook, LinkedIn, probably got some on Twitter.
We're definitely, I will say, we've definitely been showing up in different places, from YouTube to TikTok to Facebook to LinkedIn to Instagram. So those 5 platforms, but even to the point that I'm talking to my team about, like, hey, what are we doing on Pinterest? And they're like, Pinterest? Like, why would we be on Pinterest? And something I think that would really, help people, and I think help the students, I think to a point that you said that I don't want to overlook, that is one of the things that makes this way more effective is defining what audience are you trying to speak to. And we spend over a year really getting clear about our niche or niche, however people want to pronounce it. But we got very clear about who we work with. And a very quick exercise that I would ask any firm owner to do is to go to a large language model. Like this morning, like I went to ChatGPT and I typed in who is, and I put in my website, who is the TLTurner and are they a good firm? And when you ask ChatGPT that question, be prepared for what the answer is.
This is like Googling yourself to a different level too, right? You're not Googling yourself. You're taking your website and putting it in GPT, and you got some hard results from an unobjective observer, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What were some of the things you learned from that? What did it teach you when you spit that out?
The first reaction I had is, oh, shoot, I've been doing something wrong. And then as I read down a little bit further, I'm like, okay, all right, there's some stuff we're doing right, but there's some stuff that I've been really wrong at. Now, the first thing that I'll say that I was happy with is, as we got down, it was saying overall, TLTurner Group is a good firm, known especially if you are a law firm looking for an accountant who helps make finance simple. And I'm like, that is a tagline we have been like hammering in a lot of our content, a lot of the presentations. So I'm like, that message has gotten across, like that brand is out there and that's what we wanted. Now, the part where I realized like, oh shoot, I've been doing this wrong is after I asked that question, the first thing that it went to was, well, the TLTurner Group has experts in their team, and then it wrote a whole paragraph about me. And I was like, oh, I don't want the whole firm to be based around me. But that was the key point that ChatGPT started off with, was really describing the firm is great because of me. And it did all this stuff about me. And I'm like, it may be flattering if you're into ego, but I'm like, if you're trying to build a business, you don't want it to really be based on you and your personal brand, to where I'm like, all right, I got to do a better job of shifting the attention to the firm and less away from me individually.
Dude, that is fascinating, because you're the last person that would want something like that. Yet it's just describing what it sees. And you've presented the way that you've gone about everything you're doing is you have to be the face of it, because there's nobody else for you to give that job to, right? There's nobody else you can outsource that to at this moment. So you have become the speaker, the face of your firm, and you're trying to build a brand, and you're trying to build a firm that is a brand, and it's noticing that you're the only thing that it sees. So that's what it's giving back to you. And now you have to rethink how you can continue to evolve your brand and try to push it a little bit past you as the sole focus, because that's just unobjectively what it's giving you. I think that's fascinating. Did you have any takeaways today of how you're going to try to approach that? Are you going to put different people in front, or what's going to be the strategy moving forward?
Yeah, so, I mean, here's my thesis. When you're thinking about a large language model, one of the things that it is doing is it's looking at the language and it's looking at data. So, well, it's probably primarily looking at written content first, whether that's in like social posts and articles and different stuff like that. And I'm like, well, that's a good thing, because we have a content writer in Kenya, to where now I'm like, all right, you're going to be writing the articles that she's been writing. A little bit is I would write a version of the article and then she would edit. Now that she has enough experience and context with the audience, now I want you writing under your name instead of, just being the editor for my content. I want you writing under your name. Also, our marketing communications person, where we were creating a ton of video, now we're like, hey, let's take some of that video and let's turn it into graphics. And then the only name that's going to show up on the graphic is the name of the firm. And so as it starts reading some of the language within the graphic, it's not going to see Terrell Turner's name on there, because Terrell Turner's name and face isn't going to be on the graphic. It's just going to be the information we're trying to convey and the name of the firm. And so those are two really big areas where I'm like, all right, I've been positioning the team to get to that point, but now I see an even bigger reason why, like, yeah, that's the route we need to go to really get the team and the firm name out there even more when it comes down to providing services and content and value to the legal community.
Yeah. Well, it's also interesting that you're running into the same problem that most smaller businesses run into. They're the reason that they were drawing a lot of their initial clients in the first place. They were coming for you, but as you grow, you have hired more people and you have more people that can solve those problems for them. And so it's getting beyond you, and you're just finding this as you're trying to scale your marketing, and as you're trying to grow your marketing, and you have to change your offering too, and you have to change the way that you approach that. It's great. All the steps that you're taking to, I fear that you're going to dehumanize some of it too. So as you start removing yourself and you start inserting other things in there and making it less personal, are you going to become less personable? Because some of the reason that some people are drawn to it is your personality, and because they see that. And that's from all the videos, and you can still continue to do that. But in all the written content, I guess you're trying to convey something different and just speak to the matter at hand and solve their problems too. Am I understanding that correctly?
So, I mean, partially that. I think the other aspect of it is that, really empowering my content writer. She has a unique voice. I mean, she used to write scripts for television shows in Kenya, to where I'm like, your voice is very different than mine. but she's seen enough of the technical stuff, and we've had enough conversations about it because she sees all my videos. She's proofread all of the articles that I've written to where I'm like, you know enough to now talk about the topic in your voice. And one of the things that I'm excited about is that, my team, so my content editor is in the Philippines and the content writers in Kenya, is they came to me and they were like, hey, Terrell, we got this idea where we want to take some of your video content and we want to turn it into cartoons. And I was like, okay, tell me more. And so they showed me like some of the images that like the cartoon characters they created with AI. And then they showed me they took some of my videos and they said, if I had to create a hypothetical script with these characters, here's how I would lay it out. And I'm like, I like it because it's like, the voice and the content and the value is in the content, but it's not my face. It's not my name. And so I think that way we'll still have personality in it. But I think what we'll start to see is there will be a more blend of different personalities that show up. And then I think also one of the other things that I'm doing, even in the videos that I've been creating, is really taking a step back saying, instead of leading with the CFO service or like being the CFO, is if I had to create useful tools and resources or calculators, is building the CFO service around the end product or the deliverable that we have. Like I took a conversation I was having with a client and I said, all right, if I had to help them with the same thing, but build a calculator and a spreadsheet to help them. And then what I did is I built the calculator. Now the videos that I'm doing are going to be hypothetical scenarios of me walking through the calculator and how the calculator can be used to answer that question, to where now it gives us a new product to also sell to people of, if you're not ready to pay us to do the analysis for you, you can buy the calculator and you can do the analysis yourself. And so I think what it's doing is it's forcing us to be creative about how we're getting our voice out there in the marketing. And it's allowing us to create new alternative sources of revenue with new product offerings while still being able to deliver the value we were doing in the past.
You're defining how you scale this beyond yourself. You're creating ways to solve people's problems that don't require you. In particular, you've created something that they can solve that problem with, and this problem that you're speaking to. And you've gotten ways to speak to that problem without it being you. You got a cartoon version of yourself or something like that now that they can recreate and continue to speak to that problem. And then that problem that you're speaking to doesn't require you to teach that one person how to use that calculator. You've already created the instructions and the way for them to quickly jump on and start using that and start finding some value in that without you being there. All of this is happening while you're off traveling to Kenya or going somewhere else, right? So you can do all of these things, and it's a machine that's working without you, but you have to put in the effort to create that and then be able to get it so they can mimic your voice or they can mimic the things that you're speaking to and use the storytelling techniques that she found in her other life, her past life as a screenwriter or working in entertainment. She's able to now interpret that and use that to leverage you scaling your marketing without you. Part of what you sent me earlier today, I want to touch on some of the ways or what ChatGPT gave you. It listed out different techniques to use. And one of them is high quality content creation. So techniques that would help us get in front of our ideal audience in the LLMs.
Yeah, so the first question that I asked was, if more people are asking AI for answers, how do I ensure that my brand shows up in the results? And then, like I said, it gave me a list, I think, about like 9 different things you can do. The first one it talked about, like you just mentioned, it was the high quality content. And so part of that, I think, is a bedrock thing when it comes down to content is you got to make it valuable and relevant for the audience. One of the other things is you want to make sure that you have good equipment. What I would say is at least a basic mic. And I always tell people the very basic thing you should have is at least have headphones that you can plug into your laptop or Bluetooth headphones. Like that step alone will fix a lot of the sound quality problems. And the reason why I think that becomes important because a lot of these different apps and a lot of these different programs will automatically transcribe it for you if your audio is clear enough for that.
Yes.
And then we started looking at things like, really improving our video quality because I'm like, we've been using a webcam and we use Zoom, we use StreamYard. I mean, now we're using Riverside. One of the things that we changed, I was like, my camera has the ability to do 4K, but none of these programs would allow you to record in 4K. And so I was like, well, how do I actually start using that? And so what we started doing is I downloaded the Logitech program. And so now instead of recording, instead of recording directly into Riverside, I'm actually recording in the Logitech software and it's pushing my image to Riverside because Logitech is going to record my image in 4K. But I think the very baseline of high quality, the first thing has to be the value in the content that you're delivering.
That's what I was going to. I'm
message.
glad you said that now because was my argument with you on this whole being the first point is high quality is defined by being of high value. You can have it on your phone. You don't need all this extra stuff. If you're delivering high value and you're recording it just from your phone, everybody's got a phone these days that's capable of recording themselves saying something clearly enough that it can be transcribed. If you have the ability to deliver high value is solving somebody's specific problem. That is high value, and that will be high quality too. And that's what you did, but you did this in your basement, you were just recording over and over again and becoming better at that too. But you didn't have the best equipment when you first started. You were just doing it in front of whatever camera you had, and you just focused first on the value and delivering that message to the prospective customer, right? That ideal client persona. And it took a while to develop who that was and what that was. So I think that is of the highest importance here.
Totally agree because I think none of the equipment stuff matters if there isn't value in your content. I mean, people, if the audience isn't going to find what you said valuable, then all the other bells and whistles don't really matter as much. And I think that you got to have really good, valuable content to deliver. And then I think the second layer of high quality comes into your actual delivery. And so for me, one of the things that I've been doing is really studying comedians. And right now I'm going through Samuel Jackson's masterclass on acting and really how he gets into character. And it's really studying it from hey, here's comedians and people like Samuel Jackson in their acting. They know how to give an amazing delivery. And it's really going back, how do I study the craft of delivery? Because I'm we're good on the messaging and we understand the accounting for the audience that we're speaking to. Now, how do we improve the delivery and the way that we're showing up to get that message across? And because you saw when I spoke at the Bridging the Gap conference, and you and I had talked before years ago about one of my obsessions is how do I get better presenting the information? Because I don't want to just get on stage and just talk because my information is good. I want my delivery to be phenomenal to where people are man, his information is good and the delivery is good. And those two factors, the content and the delivery, are probably the most important factors when it comes down to high quality.
Yes. And you put a lot of effort into that. You started by studying Oprah. You have been studying the greats and learning from them and then honing in on your craft and making it better. A lot of the examples that we're getting here from GPT all are speaking to the same things. It's authority building, making a name for yourself and answering questions and being useful and being available, diversifying your content, engaging and creating social proof by being out there and being available for people. And you can do that by showing up where they are. So you've done this by being out there on LinkedIn and posting out there and engaging with your audience and continuing to do that through the different mediums. So I'm sure you're doing that also on Facebook and on other places through all of these different ways that you can become an authority. And then once you've done that, you've essentially created that narrative for it to spit that out for this prospective person that's searching on ChatGPT. Who is the person that I'm going to go to if I have a law firm and I need an accountant? And I don't know if you've got it to spit your name yet, but I think you're on your way to figuring that out.
Yeah, I think one of the areas that we recognize as a weakness is our website and the user experience for our website, because that was another thing that came up was the UX or the user experience. And I was like, that's not something we've done the best at in the past, but it is something that I've been working with my team on as far as like, how do we drive that more? And how do we improve that user experience? Like now, as I'm going to speak at different places, one of the things that I'm offering now is a free workbook that goes along with the topic that I spoke on. And one of the things that I've been working with my team is when they go to our website to download that free workbook, what's that experience like? Is it easy for them to get what they came for? Because I'm like, the more hits we get on our website for people coming to get these resources, the higher it's going to rank us when it comes down to showing up in search results and stuff like that. And so we're really working on that user experience to the point like last night I made a decision and I sent my team a message like, hey, I need you to tell me what website builder we should use, because at this point I want to rebuild our website and we're going to keep it simple, but we're going to prioritize usability, the user experience with the website, because before what we prioritized was getting our information out there. We were just using it to put our content out there. But I was like, now we need to go to the next level and we need to say, how user friendly is our website? Because we got the content. We know the content is good. Now we need to make it easier, more accessible, and make it a better experience for people to actually experience the content that we have. And I think that's a piece that we're definitely on that roadmap to fix.
Well, the content's only good if it's getting in front of and helping the right person, right? The content could be good, but if it's not easy for them to approach, then what good is it for? Another big part of this is understanding that it's not all just set it and you're done. I don't know how many people have done this with their websites, how many people have updated their website, put a bunch of work into it, and it's already 5 years later and you've done nothing since, right? Maybe not 5 years, but 2 or 3 years, and you've done nothing. This is a continuous where you monitor and you continue to make these other adjustments and tweaks and changes. Terrell, you've never ever been close to done with your marketing. You're always just getting started, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing about marketing is marketing isn't, hey, come up with that one way to do it. I mean, because even if you think about like, let's look at some of the giants when it comes down to marketing. You look at like your Procter & Gamble, you look at like Geico, you look at State Farm. It wasn't like they came up with a commercial that worked 8 years ago and they just keep running that same commercial. It's like they keep
I don't know.
evolving.
Geico's still kind of doing the same commercial.
Well, I will say, but the thing is, where they're evolving is they're using the same concept, but they're using different images. They're using different scenarios in there.
And they're geniuses about it. They make it funny every time. And they've got 3 different gags that they do. They've got the caveman, they've got the actual gecko, and a few others, right? And they just keep digging into some of those same themes. But you're right, is they evolve it. And they touch on different things as they evolve it too, so you don't expect the same thing. That was one thing that some advice that you gave me too, is you don't want to, because somebody's going to tune it out. If they see the same thing scrolling that they saw last week or the week before, their mind has already moved on to something else because they think it's the same information. So you have to continually evolve and change that.
And we ran into that issue when it came down to some of like the law firm related content, because I was like, man, I kept running into this wall where it's like we were talking about the same concepts where you're talking about revenue generation, utilization, collection, profitability. And I'm like, how do we still talk about those core concepts, but change up the delivery a little bit? And that was one of the things where I thought about with creating the calculator, because what I did is I did some research and I looked and said, okay, all right, here's what the average pricing or price index looks like by state across all 50 states and, Washington, D.C. And then I did the same thing for about 15 different practice areas or 15 different types of law firms. And then what I did is I just built the formulas in the calculator to where in the video, I literally start off the video. If you are a corporate attorney in New York, and I just hit the drop down, pick corporate attorney, pick New York, and then I walk through the example. And then I can do the same thing and say, if you're in California and you're an immigration lawyer, and I can go through the same, because what I was like, I needed a way to create variety, but still hit the same valuable points. Because to your point, Geico has had somewhat of the same framework. They've just changed some of the characters and some of the setting a little bit. And I'm like, how do we start to do that same thing in our content?
Yeah. And again, you got to touch on, they pull from different themes and different recognizable things. That's something that you're also doing with your marketing. You pull from other memes or other ways to grab somebody's attention, and then you pull them in. And once you grab them in, then you can continue talking. But what you've done is you've got that hook. And you've got that thought-provoking idea or engaging or funny piece of content that will pull them, that will hook them in, and then you've got the rest of the time, because that's all it needs for them to continue scrolling is like half a second. So,
and the meme idea has been amazing. I was listening to an Accounting High episode. It was one you were doing with Logan Graff, and you guys were talking about just marketing ideas. And I think he had mentioned like, yeah, man, you really got to meme it up. And I was like, what if I did take some memes and did some? And I will say, like the memes have been some of our best performing content. Prior to doing the memes, my best performing content got maybe about 25,000 impressions within a week. Well, we started doing the meme videos. Now, our meme videos started hitting about 15,000 impressions within the first 3 days. To where I'm just like, whoa, this actually works well. And so, which is.
So you started it by pulling information from well-known places. So you were doing the Kanye West comparison, or you did something related to that. You did stuff related to Mario, and that was doing well, or other news-related items. And then you pulled it into just generally funny memes that are from different places on the internet. And if it's popular somewhere else, it's probably going to be popular on LinkedIn too. So you might as well pull it in and relate it to what you're talking about. And that seems effortless because it's not requiring you in every case. The meme is something that somebody else did, and you can pull that in. And what you're bringing to the table is how you're bridging that into the topic that you want to discuss, right? Whatever you're going to bring up that day. And,
absolutely, man.
And that was the skill that you were working on already, all throughout. So this is just taking it to a different place and grabbing people's attention in a different way. Funny stuff, too, the stuff that they're pulling for the memes. I don't know. I bet you're probably not even pulling all of them at this point, right? They're at the stage now where they're pulling them and showing you the ones that they pulled.
So we started off, I would say they're starting to pull more, because we started off when I came up with the idea, and they were trying to find like memes that are specifically related to business. And I was like, no, it doesn't necessarily have to be related to business. Like, I think I pick one where like there's this video that they're working on now where there's a guy that's, I guess he's trying to get this snake off of like the side of this thing that he's standing on. And he's like waving a stick at the snake. And so the snake starts coming back to him and he's backing up and he's running from it. And then there's a much bigger snake that comes from a different direction. And so the video we're talking about, like, hey, when you focus on the wrong problem, you're going to end up in a very bad situation. And when I explained it to them, like, it does not have to be a business video. It can be anything. Now they're starting to explore a bit more. And, What's pretty cool is like some of my staff members have children and they're like, their kids are helping them find memes and like, well, can your boss do a meme on this? And I'm just like, all right, we'll see what we can do.
Let's see how it comes out. And that's the thing is I think you need those younger creative minds or uninhibited minds to find the cool stuff because honestly, they're the ones who are scrolling most of the day anyway, and they know what's good. And that's just like being explorative and being able to experiment with something different or do something different that you haven't done before. Because if it starts working, then it's like, okay, all those other things that didn't work don't matter anymore. Now let's just lean into this and do more of this. So I want to tease something for our students that we'll get back to at another time. I know we've kind of exhausted this topic, but it's never exhausted because it's continually evolving. But I think we did a pretty good job of just talking about where we are in today's marketing your brand in the age of AI. One thing I wanted to mention is just this last episode, I had somebody describing their methods of promoting their team and creating expectations for the team. And he used the phrases you did. He didn't do average, good, and excellent, but he was talking about going from good to excellent, or he was talking about going from that average or an employee that would be okay with that. He was talking about the compensation model and how the employees that aren't looking to grow or be those all-stars are still given a place to work with dignity, and they can still be good and they can still hit these metrics. But the ones that do aspire for excellence and the ones that aspire to grow and continue to evolve, they have ways that they can basically spin out their own little brands within his firm. And it was just the way he was describing it. And this is Tim Petrey for our listeners. You can check out his episode. But what he was describing was Terrell's golden age method, which he has been working on for a little while. And I want to do a deeper dive. I want you to just give a quick rundown of what you've been developing, what you've been creating, and this model for your people or for managing your people at your firm. And then we can go into it on another episode of Varsity that's more people focused. So we'll do a different one another day.
Yeah, so when it comes down to the golden age, I did a review with my staff, and the staff came back and they thought that they were a 5 out of 5. And I was just like, ooh, I didn't necessarily feel that they were that great that year. And so I was like, all right, something got missed. And so I went on to kind of this journey to figure out, like, how do I do a better job of painting the picture of what great and what a 5 actually looks like? And then I realized, like, if they're average, they're doing enough to keep their job, no one's going to go from that level all the way up to a 5 right away. Everything is going to happen in stages. And so we came up with this model of, well, here's what average looks like, here's what good looks like, here's what excellent looks like. Because different people were performing at different levels. And what I realized is if I don't give the people who are at the top level of performance, if I don't give them something to aim for, they're probably going to either lose interest or they're going to go find someone somewhere else to be a player and to be a winner. Because I'm a former athlete myself. I love the competition. And if you don't give me a noteworthy goal to aim for, I'm probably going to lose interest. And then also for our people who are just starting out, who just aren't ready to run at that level, they also needed something to aim for and to not feel like crap because they weren't the best. And so we came up with this model called the Golden Age, where we really lay out and make it very clear, and we can do personalized development plans for everyone on the team. And we do performance reviews on a monthly and sometimes bi-weekly basis. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time, but it's just because we're using this Golden Age model to really make it work. And our staff, their performance is definitely shooting up and everybody's improving. Like, our margins are getting better. The efficiency of the staff is getting better because we're using this Golden Age model.
All right. Well, the next time you see Terrell at Accounting High, it's going to be in the gym, and it's going to be Coach Terrell, and we're going to be talking about this whole Golden Age model. I appreciate you coming on today and sharing everything with our students at Social Studies here. So thanks, homie.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, peace out.